What's going on, everybody? I have just finished playing the Splatoon 3 World Premiere Splatfest, just like most of you guys have. During the time, I tried every single weapon at least once, so I'm going to judge them based on their effectiveness. Couple of ground rules for this tier list. Overall, all of the weapons in Splatoon 3 are pretty balanced, so I don't think any of these deserve to be in a Garbo D or F tier. Since this was also just a couple hours of turf war, I don't think it's productive to count weapons in an S tier either. S tier weapons will get settled once we have ranked game modes. For the sake of consistency, A tier are the weapons that can fit on every team regardless of the map or team comp. B tier are the weapons that are average and can fit on most teams but may require some support to be good. And the C tier weapons are weapons that are okay but are mostly outclassed by other weapons. Starting with, of course, the Splattershot Pro, and this weapon belongs in the A tier. I loved this kit the most out of any one I tried. The SSP has a ton of range for a shooter, which means it can be as aggressive or as passive as you want. The angle shooter is a lot better than I thought it would be. It can mark a single opponent or simply cut off an entire zone for a couple seconds if you know where your opponents will be. It also has the crab tank, and I don't really need to explain that one. The Splattershot Junior I will put firmly in the B tier. It's just a nice average shooter weapon that has balance between lethal damage and inking turf. I was kind of underwhelmed by the big bubbler special weapon. It seemed really easy for the opponents to ignore it with your short range. Next is the Aerospray, which I will put in the A tier. I was surprised by the Aerospray. I usually hate using this weapon, but this kit is a lot of fun. You have Fizzy Bombs, which is a great sub-weapon, and you can charge your Reef Slider really fast. Reef Slider is one of the best hard engage tools in the game, so being able to use it so often makes the Aerospray worth it. Now we have the Splattershot, and this kit is going into the A tier as well. This guy can fit on any team. It's pretty much always going to be useful. You can play more of a support role and not engage until you charge up your Trizuka, or you can play the front line and get aggressive. The Splattershot is also my favorite weapon and has been since Splatoon 1, so I might be biased. The 52 is kinda weird, so it's gonna go in the B tier. It's a straight up monster for dealing damage, but the kit isn't that great. Having a splash wall is the best part about the kit, but neither the 52 nor the Killer Whale synergize with it well. You can use the 52 gal and get great results, but I would rather have a utility focused shooter. NZAP is A tier, even though I suck with it. For some reason, I can never get the hang of aiming with the NZAP. I'm always out of range or slightly missing from up close, so I had some trouble for sure. But I know just based on the fact that it has Tacticooler and Suction Bombs, it's going to be a great weapon. Tacticooler gives your team like every buff in the game, and also respawns you instantly, so it might be the best shooter support weapon of the bunch. Now on to the two rollers. Splat Roller is going in the C tier. The big bubbler isn't that useful when you're so short range. The opponent is going to see you in there and just not go in. It's nice to set up for objectives. I saw some Splat Rollers using the bubbler to grab the thingy in the tricolor battle, but the Splattershot Junior could do the same thing. Splat Roller is still a good weapon, but I just didn't see it much. I didn't see many Dynamo Rollers either, but I still think it's a B tier weapon. I do like how the Dynamo is more consistent with its shots now. A good Dynamo Roller can absolutely wreck your team, no problem. It does have Tacticooler, but it's really hard to charge, so usually by the time you can get it up, your team is either spread out or splatted. The Splat Charger and Splatter Scope are both going in B tier. I absolutely love the Ink Vac, but I don't think it runs great on the Splat Charger, considering you're not really in the action ready to use it. Having Splat Bombs is nice to get out of trouble, but overall you can apply more pressure by just shooting from a good angle. Without Mori Towers, it doesn't seem like any of the Splatoon 3 maps we got in rotation were great for the E-Leader. This doesn't have a great kit either. I'm not a huge fan of the Ink Mine, considering if an opponent ever steps on one, you're probably dead anyway. The Wave Breaker is fantastic, but you're also too far away to use the special in the right spot most of the time. The E-Leader is always going to be good though. It can have no sub and special and still be a B tier weapon. On to the Slosher weapons. The regular Slosher goes in A tier. I really loved how the Slosher felt. I'm not sure what changes they made compared to Splatoon 2, but it just feels more consistent. I also love the triple Ink Strike in this kit. You're always in position to use it, and it can completely lock down opponents if you trap them in. I got splatted by so many sloshers today from positions I never knew were possible, so this guy has potential. The Slosher, however, I'm putting in C tier. I'm not a fan of the limited range it has. It kind of nullifies the ability to slosh over walls. Plus, the kit is kind of meh. You don't have a damaging sub-weapon which hurts for pressure, and the inkjet is just underwhelming. I'll be honest, I don't like how the inkjet feels in Splatoon 3. I'm sure the mechanics are the same, but it just doesn't fill the same job as it used to. Heavy Splatling for A tier. If I was choosing a day 1 S tier, it would be the Heavy Splatling and maybe the SSP, but I love this weapon kit. The Heavy Splatling never really needed a damaging sub, so getting a Sprinkler is amazing just to farm up your Wave Breaker. Plus, unlike the E-Leader, you're more in a position to use the Wave Breaker optimally. Having the Wave Breaker active while you keep watch is pretty much a guaranteed splat confirm on any enemy in the circle. This was especially powerful on Tricolor Turf War because it controls the beacon. The Hydra Splatling was also great, B tier for sure. It was one of the most annoying weapons to play against when Scissors used it on defense at Tricolor Turf War. Pushing against the Hydra is really difficult when you only have 2 teammates on your side to help. I'm not thrilled about the Booyah Bomb. Like I said about the Inkjet, I feel like it just doesn't fill the same job as it used to. On to the Dualies. We only got to use 2 different dualie types, but the Splat Dualies go in B tier. I'm not sure if the Crab Tank and the Suction Bomb are worth having a shorter range weapon. The Splat Dualies have great mobility and works well in Turf War, but I think it can get outclassed more often. Dark Tetra Dualies, however, are going in the A tier, the single best run and gun weapon in the demo. I can see these being incredibly annoying with quick respawn and special charge up, where your job is just to run in, get traded, and spawn back. The Reef Slider is an awesome engagement tool, so it just helps your role as a guy who runs around being annoying. Plus, they're just impossible to hit when you combine it with the new squid rolls. The Splatbrella wasn't that impressive to me, so I'll put it in the C tier. Sprinkler just doesn't make sense for this weapon's role. You don't really need a passive turfing with an aggressive weapon, so that knocks it down a bit. The triple ink strike, however, does work really well, but I think you're better off with the Slosher in that case. The Tentabrella is really hard to rank, probably the most difficult to rank weapon in the demo. I'll put it in B tier, but only because its support tools are limited in a Turf War environment. I will say the Tentabrella is a support player's best friend. It has Squid Beacon to bring in your front line, it has Ink Vac, which is perfect for the role, and it has the actual Brella feature to protect your shooters. I wouldn't be surprised if Tentabrella and NZAP dominate later on. That will be a very annoying combo. For the blasters, Luna Blaster is in C tier. I wasn't really impressed with it at all. It's nice to have high fire rate and damage, but it just wasn't fun to use. The Splat Bomb works, it's a good sub-weapon, but the Zipcaster is just misplaced. I do not like the Zipcaster on this weapon. It's just not great at being that assassin like the Octobrush is. Most of the time, the other team is going to see you zip and splat you before you even pull your gun out. The regular blaster is going up to B tier. As you know, the blaster got their jump accuracy back, so it's much more consistent of a weapon. Also, the big bubbler works with this way better than any other bubbler users because you can actually use your range to pressure the opponents nearby. Auto bombs are great to spam, so you can just fire in the general direction of your opponents. The ink brush is going into C tier for me. I feel like this kit isn't as annoying as the ink brush is meant to be. Splat Bomb is hard to use because you're pretty low on ink a lot of the time, and the Killer Whale is just average. However, the Octobrush goes into A tier. It has great sub-weapon and more assassin potential than Ink Brush. It's probably the best assassin weapon in the game. The Zipcaster actually works here. I thought the Zipcaster was going to be trash until I used it with this kit. It's almost a guaranteed kill so long as you're using it wisely. Finally, the last 2 main weapons, the Tri-Stringer and the Splatana Wiper, they will both go into B tier because I need to see more. Starting with the Tri-Stringer, I started to get used to the weapon by using it at max range only and just spamming the bolts. It is very ink efficient, so you can shoot a ton before needing to recharge. I was disappointed by the low damage output though. The secondary explosion helps, but sometimes it just doesn't feel like it's worth it. The Splatana Wiper was really good as well. It has way more range than I thought it would. It struggles a lot against zoning if you don't have support from your team, but the Toxic Mist and Ultra Stamp combo are really nice. But the Splatana is also horrible at inking the floor, so grinding the special is much more difficult. Alright, I hope nothing here was too off. I'm a speedrunner and not a competitive player. Which of these surprised you the most? Leave your answers in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching.